The whispers of your soul led you here, the old inscription read on the weathered sign outside the cafe. On a cool, misty afternoon in early spring, Sarah paused beneath its gentle glow, wondering if fate had indeed conspired to bring her to this very spot. Clutching her worn leather journal close, she stepped inside the quaint establishment, a haven of soft jazz and murmured conversations, unaware that today, subtle clues of connection and desire were about to weave their intricate tale. A gaze that spoke volumes. Sarah chose a corner seat by a fogged-up window, where droplets of rain sketched fleeting patterns on the glass. As she settled in with her cappuccino and a book of poetry, her eyes lifted to the room. That's when she first noticed him, a man who, even amidst the gentle hum of conversation, possessed an aura of quiet intensity. Daniel, as she would later learn his name, had an air of thoughtful mystery. But what struck Sarah most was the way his eyes seemed to wander, not randomly, but purposefully. Across the room, Daniel's gaze was fixed on something or someone. When their eyes met, she caught a moment of silence where his look lingered longer than a polite glance. His eyes, dark and expressive, danced over the contours of her face with a subtle reverence. It was as if he were silently undressing her in his mind, admiring the graceful line of her neck and the gentle curve of her smile. In that brief, unspoken exchange, Sarah felt both seen and admired, a silent conversation of desire unfolding without a single word. The lowered voice of intimacy. A short while later, fate, or perhaps the cafe's coincidental seating arrangement, placed Sarah and Daniel at the same communal table. With a polite nod, Daniel initiated a conversation, and as they talked, Sarah noticed something extraordinary. His voice, usually calm and measured, shifted into a lower, mellifluous tone when addressing her. It wasn't just the content of his words that captivated her, but the intimate cadence with which he spoke. There was a softness, a vulnerability woven into each syllable, as if every word was chosen to draw her closer into his inner world. During the conversation, when Daniel recounted a memory from his childhood or described his passion for art, his voice dipped into a richer register. The change was subtle but unmistakable, a secret signal that behind his composed exterior lay a profound longing to connect. Sarah found herself leaning in, not only to catch his every word but to savor the melodic timbre that now resonated with her own heartbeat. Accidental touches and electric currents. As the afternoon waned and the soft light turned golden, the conversation took a natural pause. Sarah excused herself to refill her cup of tea, and as she rose, Daniel's hand brushed lightly against hers, a fleeting, almost accidental contact. Yet in that brief moment, an invisible current passed between them. The touch was gentle, as if he had found 1,000 excuses just to be near her, to feel the warmth of her skin. It was in these small, seemingly inconsequential gestures that Sarah began to sense an emotional magnetism, a chemistry that transcended words. Physical touch, even in its most innocent form, often carries a language of its own, and Sarah's pulse quickened as she realized the significance of this subtle intimacy. It was as if his fingertips, in their transient contact, had whispered promises of connection that defied the need for overt declarations. Compliments etched in detail. Over the next few days, Sarah found herself frequently returning to that same cafe, her curiosity piqued by the enigmatic man with the lingering gaze. Their conversations grew more frequent, and with each encounter, Daniel's compliments grew ever more specific and heartfelt. One breezy afternoon, while they strolled along a tree-lined avenue, Daniel paused to admire Sarah's ensemble, a simple sundress paired with a delicate necklace. "I love the way your dress flows," he said, his eyes sparkling with genuine admiration. "And that necklace, it's as if it captures the light every time you move. You have a grace that's rare." It wasn't just a generic remark. Each compliment was finely tuned to her unique qualities, comments about the subtle scent of her perfume that seemed to echo the aroma of fresh blossoms, the gentle way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, the effortless elegance in the way she carried herself. With every carefully chosen word, Daniel was not only revealing his attraction but also inviting her to see herself through the lens of admiration and possibility. the breath of anticipation. Their growing closeness was punctuated by moments when the world around them seemed to slow down. On one particularly brisk evening, as they shared a quiet corner in a bustling art gallery, Sarah noticed that Daniel's breathing changed when she entered his personal space. His breaths became deeper, more measured, a physiological response that mirrored the rush of excitement and anticipation coursing through him. It was a detail so subtle that most would miss it, yet for Sarah, it was another intimate clue. The slight quickening of his breath when she spoke, the way he paused momentarily to catch it before responding, each of these nuances painted a portrait of a man whose body was speaking the language of desire even before his lips could form the words. A tender claim in a crowded world. As the seasons shifted and summer's warmth replaced spring's gentle coolness, Sarah and Daniel's bond deepened. One balmy evening, at a lively outdoor gathering with mutual friends, Sarah found herself surrounded by animated chatter and laughter. Amid the merriment, she noticed Daniel's subtle yet unmistakable behavior, a protective inclination that he seemed unable to hide. When a stranger's hand brushed against Sarah's arm, Daniel was quick to step in, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back as if to reassure her and stake a gentle claim over the space between them. His actions were not forceful or overtly possessive, but they carried an undercurrent of care and protection. In that moment, surrounded by the hum of conversation and the flicker of fairy lights, Sarah realized that true attraction sometimes manifests in these protective, almost chivalrous gestures, a silent vow to cherish and safeguard the one who has captivated one's heart. Inside jokes and shared worlds. The connection between Sarah and Daniel was not solely built on fleeting glances or whispered compliments. It flourished in the intimate space of shared laughter and inside jokes. On an unexpectedly rainy afternoon, when the city's rhythm slowed to a gentle drizzle, they found themselves huddled in a quiet cafe, escaping the gloom outside. Between sips of warm tea and bites of flaky pastries, they began to craft a world uniquely their own, a universe of private humor and subtle references that only they understood. They would laugh about a clumsy waiter who always spilled water, turning the incident into a running joke that lightened even the darkest days. Every playful tease, every whispered anecdote, stitched together a tapestry of shared memories and secret smiles. In these moments, Sarah felt as though they had constructed a sanctuary away from the harshness of everyday life, where every quip and gentle ribbing deepened the intimacy that bound them. A dance of proximity and presence. The true test of any connection lies in the unspoken language of body movement. At a crowded summer soiree hosted in a sunlit garden, Sarah observed Daniel in a way that left little doubt about his unyielding focus on her. Even in the midst of animated conversations and swirling groups of friends, Daniel's body consistently oriented toward her. His chair, his posture, even the casual way he leaned against a tree, seemed calibrated to face her, a silent testament to his unwavering interest. In a room full of distractions, his steadfast physical orientation was like a lighthouse in a storm, guiding his attention and intention directly to her. Sarah realized that, beyond words, it was these subtle shifts, these small, almost imperceptible adjustments, that spoke of a mind and heart utterly captivated by her presence. Moments of brilliance and demonstrated strength. As their relationship blossomed, there came times when Daniel's quiet determination shone through in unexpected ways. One chilly evening, while walking home from a late movie screening, they encountered a minor mishap. A loose piece of pavement sent a scattering of pebbles rolling onto the sidewalk. Without a word of complaint, Daniel knelt to gather them, his actions both practical and imbued with a certain quiet pride. It wasn't merely about fixing a small problem, it was his way of showing that he was capable and resourceful, that he could be relied upon in even the simplest of situations. His display of competence, though subtle, was a silent signal meant to reassure Sarah that he had the strength and character to protect and support her. In that moment, as he rose and offered her a warm smile, she knew that his gestures went far beyond the physical. They were the manifestations of a deep, underlying desire to impress, to be more than just another face in the crowd. The test of jealousy and hidden emotions. Not all moments of connection are straightforward. There was an instance, a delicate dance of emotions, when Daniel casually mentioned another woman while discussing his recent reading of a novel. His tone was light, almost teasing, yet Sarah could detect the careful watchfulness in his eyes. It was a subtle test, a way to see if her reaction would betray the depth of her own feelings. For a brief moment, Sarah hesitated, searching his expression for any sign of insecurity or veiled possessiveness. Instead, she found only a flicker of concern, quickly masked by a playful smile. In that exchange, the undercurrents of jealousy mingled with tenderness, hinting at the vulnerability behind his confident facade. It was a reminder that beneath the polished layers of charm and composure lay a man who cared deeply, enough to risk his heart in the delicate interplay of attraction and validation. Memories of the small things. In the quiet hours of early morning, when the city lay in hushed slumber, Sarah often found herself revisiting the details of her encounters with Daniel. One particular memory warmed her heart, the way he remembered the minutiae of their conversations. Whether it was her favorite type of tea, the title of a book she mentioned in passing, or the soft melody of a song that had once comforted her, Daniel retained these details with a tenderness that spoke of true emotional investment. This attentiveness to the small things was not just a testament to his memory but to his genuine desire to understand and cherish her. Every remembered detail was a brushstroke on the canvas of their growing intimacy, a quiet promise that he was listening, that every part of her mattered deeply in the tapestry of his affection. The nervous energy of attraction. Yet, even the most confident among us can betray moments of nervous energy when faced with the possibility of something precious. Sarah observed that despite Daniel's usual composure, there were times when his hands would fidget or his hair would need readjusting, a fleeting, almost imperceptible sign of vulnerability. During one particularly intimate conversation in a softly lit park, she caught him repeatedly smoothing down his shirt, a subtle reminder that beneath the layers of confidence was a man quietly aware of the weight of her gaze. It was as if each small gesture was a silent admission. He was nervous, he was eager, and most of all, he was profoundly moved by her presence. In those moments, the barriers between them melted away, leaving behind a raw, authentic connection that required no pretense. The rhythm of digital whispers. In today's age, where hearts often speak through digital pulses, the exchange of messages became another canvas upon which their connection was painted. After a delightful evening together, their conversation continued through texts that oscillated between bursts of poetic enthusiasm and periods of thoughtful brevity. Sarah noticed that on some days, Daniel's messages flowed like a gentle stream of warm recollections, long, filled with details of his day, his thoughts, his reflections on her smile. Yet on other days, his replies were curt, almost hesitant, as if he were carefully weighing each word before letting it into the light. This fluctuation wasn't a sign of disinterest but a delicate balancing act, a dance of emotions where vulnerability met caution. Every message, every pause, was a glimpse into the careful navigation of his inner world, where the desire to reveal and the fear of being too open intertwined in a quiet, digital dialogue. Playful challenges and the spark of tension. One crisp autumn evening, as golden leaves cascaded around them in a playful whirl, Daniel and Sarah found themselves engaged in a spirited debate over art and philosophy at a gallery's opening. The conversation was light-hearted yet charged with a palpable tension, a dance of wit and intellect where neither was willing to concede easily. Daniel's playful challenges, the teasing critiques, and the gentle ribbing were not attempts to belittle but to spark a connection that thrived on mutual respect and admiration. There was something irresistible about a man who could challenge you, who could engage in a battle of ideas with a twinkle in his eye and a soft smile that hinted at deeper feelings. In that exchange, the playful challenges became a language of their own, a way to build intimacy through shared passion, to test the waters of attraction in a manner that was both fun and deeply revealing. Sarah felt her heart race as the tension between them crackled like static, each retort and witty comeback drawing them ever closer. That unspoken look. In the quiet intervals between laughter and conversation, there came moments when words were unnecessary. There was a look, a fleeting, intense glance, that passed between them one evening as they said their goodbyes. It was a look that spoke of admiration, curiosity, and a deep, unspoken attraction that neither dared to articulate fully. For a fraction of a second, Daniel's eyes softened into a mix of longing and understanding, and Sarah saw in them a mirror of her own hidden desires. That singular, charged moment, suspended in time, held more meaning than any grand declaration could have conveyed. It was a silent promise, a commitment to explore the depths of what lay between them, to allow the language of glances and quiet smiles to build a bridge toward a future filled with possibility. Epilogue: the resonance of unspoken truths. In the days and weeks that followed, Sarah often found herself reflecting on the myriad subtle signals that had transformed a chance encounter into a profound connection. Each detail, every lingering gaze, every lowered voice, every tender touch and thoughtful compliment, had contributed to a symphony of desire that resonated deep within her soul. It was a reminder that attraction is not always shouted from the rooftops. Sometimes, it is whispered softly through the language of the body and the quiet cadence of the heart. As she penned her thoughts in the pages of her journal one serene evening, Sarah realized that the beauty of their connection lay in its subtlety. Daniel's actions, so carefully interwoven with genuine care and vulnerability, had painted a portrait of desire that was as intricate as it was sincere. In the end, it wasn't the grand gestures but the quiet, persistent clues that spoke volumes, clues that affirmed she was exactly where she needed to be, enveloped in a connection that was both profound and transformative. And so, beneath the whispering light of a setting sun, Sarah closed her journal with a gentle smile, carrying with her the unspoken truths of a day that had changed everything. In the silent dialogue of shared glances and heartfelt moments, she had discovered that sometimes, the soul's whispers are the most powerful language of all. In every unguarded moment, in every subtle sign, the body speaks a language of its own, a language that, when truly heard, reveals the deepest desires of the heart. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others. Your support helps us keep creating valuable content. Thank you.